Captain America Civil War is by far the greatest comic book live-action adaptation I have ever seen in my entire life. The fact that the Russo brothers started production, and I mean principal photography, on this movie on May 5th, 2015 is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. It is beyond me how they managed to do this. It is a movie that establishes itself very early on in the film and takes its time, doesn't rush anything, establishes everything for the movie to breathe and for you to understand that this is real and there's a true good reasoning for it happening, and the person who is causing all of this is a genius mastermind, and the way that everything plays out shatters the universe as you know it. There's a lot to talk about, and I mean a lot to talk about, so I'll try to squeeze a lot of things in without spoiling anything and kind of go piece by piece as bestly as I possibly can. So, first and foremost, the reasoning for Tony Stark and Steve Rogers not seeing it eye to eye, and of course the Avengers being divided and new Avengers coming in, is very fleshed out. There's a good reasoning, especially with Tony when he sees the woman after his MIT speech and she blames him for her son's death in Sokovia. You know, and she makes the Avengers, and especially Tony, the face of the collateral damage caused in Sokovia, New York, and Washington, D.C., and all the people die, and of course what transpires in the beginning of this film. Now, it is so well done because you hear both sides. It's not just, oh, we're going to say this once and we're going to go to fighting. No. The Russo brothers took their time. They let you understand and sink in the conflict and the reasoning for both sides to do what they are going to do and to be the way they are. It is so well done. Without spoiling anything, the acting by Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans was perfection. So well executed, so well written, so well directed. The very opening sequence, and it's an action sequence with crossbones, which we've seen from the trailers, of course, it is teamwork, like Avengers teamwork, that ends not so well for the Avengers, yet sets up this beautiful story. You know what I mean? And the way that Black Panther is introduced, just the T'Challa was perfectly put into the story. He wasn't forced. He felt perfectly executed, and he felt as if he was supposed to be a part of it due to what transpires in the film after the events of the opening sequence and what transpires in the United Nations headquarters, or the United Nations United Nations meeting. Excuse me, it wasn't the actual, it was not done over there in New York. So, it was so well done. The fact that Bucky was implemented into the storyline due to the fact that it would have caused the annihilation of the Avengers, and the way that the main villain Baron Zemo plans everything that way, it is one of the greatest villain plans you will ever see. It is genius, and it is so well done. This is the type of villain Marvel has been lacking. That is not over-explained, that is simple, understandable, you can understand why he's doing this. He is a genius mastermind without any superpower, and he is so goddamn menacing and so goddamn scary. It is just, I can't say enough. Back to the point. I'm going to be jumping back and forth like this. I told you, there's so much going on. The way that Steve and Tony start fighting and the sides start fighting, and the way that it all transpires through the movie, the way it's not rushed, the way it builds up slowly builds up. It's also one of the better things of this film. The reasoning for Ant-Man being on Team Captain America is very well explained. It's very simple. The reason for Scarlett Witch being there, well, Sam Wilson is obvious, but for people like Agent 23, it's all done beautifully. And Agent 23 and Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter have their own little story arc in the film that fits in beautifully. It makes sense. You know why it's there. Yet the comic relief of everything, no matter how dark it gets, no matter how realistic, no matter how enthralling, there are still comic relief moments that are not forced, but just flow so beautifully with everything that has transpired in the movie and in the past 11 films, not including Guardians of the Galaxy, that have transpired to build this Civil War. It is so beautifully toned, and it's not forced on you. Now, something else I want to touch upon, the way that Black Panther grows in this film from where we first see him to what, you know, he wants to do and why he's doing it, how he's doing it in the film to the very end. And the post-credit scene, without spoiling it, he's in one of the post-credit scenes. It makes sense. It makes sense, and you understand it, and it makes him a true hero and a great future leader of his nation. It is very cool, and his story arc is properly done in this film. But by all means necessary, no matter how much we're going to talk about the Avengers being in this movie, no matter how much we're going to talk about so many characters introduced and so many villains and all that, it's still a Captain America movie, guys. You will never, while you watch this movie, it is a Captain America movie. You know, Bucky, the Winter Soldier, great stuff. Phenomenal story arc. I was so amazed by how much they put into this movie. But the Civil War really does start, not just because of the Accords, but because of what Bucky does and what Steve, and how Steve tries to stop Bucky and then realizing that he's, you know, becoming himself and he was set up. And that really does set up the Civil War aspect. They were divided, but now they have to fight because difference of beliefs and difference of opinion. And now Steve is trying to help this criminal. Now he's technically a criminal. So it is amazing. Absolutely amazing. One of the other things I want to talk about, Spider-Man. This was it. This was it. This is what a comic book Spider-Man, teenage comic Spider-Man is. I read Spider-Man. This is it. This right here is the end-all be-all. The way that they introduced him and the reason he is in the movie is, it's not a spoiler, just, you know, it's a very minor spoiler, I should say. It's because Tony Stark needed more people on his team. And that's obvious because we don't have a very big Avengers roster and it was already divided. And Steve was getting people, and like Ant-Man, for example. So he needed, you know, some extra help. And he knew a guy, and the way that it is done, the way that Tony Stark meets Peter Parker, it's genius because Tony Stark right now for the past few months has been really a philanthropist and really building incredible technology, not just throughout his life, of course, and people know how amazing of a person he is and how much money he donates and how many good things he's done. Alongside a few, you know, questionable things, but now he's really been focusing on that and giving people scholarships and all that. So for a young man like Peter to see him in his apartment, he was amazed. And the way that their conversation went in Peter's room was hysterical. When Tony got the goggles out that he wears, he goes, "How do you see in these things?" It just beautiful. And the way that they don't over-explain Peter Parker's origin, they mention it, but they don't really talk about it. They set it up for his own movie. It's perfect. They're not going to do an origin story. They're just going to probably expand on that in his own movie. You know what I mean? Perfection. Perfection. Aunt May was great. Hot as hell. Tony even said that. It was perfect. Spider-Man during the battle, and we'll talk about that epic freaking, you know, battle over there in the airport, was beautiful. Just, it was, I couldn't tell that it was CG. It was incredible. Most of his suit, especially his eyes, of course, are CG, and his movement was mostly CG. But it was all captured by Tom Holland, and the superhero landings were incredible that were done by him, not his stunt double. His voice was perfect. Just great, just great. But let's talk about the battle. I'll talk more about Spider-Man in my spoiler review. Not the final battle, but the enormous, and I mean enormous battle in the airport happens because Bucky and Steve want to capture Zemo and bring him to justice for what he's done. You know, for what he's done. Because he's obviously the villain of the movie now. Tony Stark and his team don't want to let that happen because they don't really believe in that yet. And they don't understand why Steve is helping him, and they need to stop them. They need to stop this. They need to bring them all to justice. They need to, you know, make sure that the world doesn't completely destroy the Avengers. You know, Tony's trying to keep the Avengers together, and he's saying that Steve is trying to rip the Avengers apart. And it's this battle. It is everything that a comic book fan wants, dreams of, and more. It is so well fucking done. It is beyond me how they achieved this in so little time. It is humorous. The battle itself, because of Spider-Man, it is humorous. Ant-Man, incredible. The choreography, the camera work when they run at each other. What happens with Ant-Man and how Spider-Man reacts to it. The references to Star Wars, the talking, the actual cinematography of the fight, the music. I can't say enough, okay? I'm rambling on. It is insane how good this movie is. I can't say enough, okay? I can go on and on and on. It's a 10 out of 10, okay? Fuck what you heard. This is the best comic book movie you'll ever watch. Point blank, period. The Russo brothers are insane. This cinematic universe is in great hands, okay? This is everything I wanted from a Marvel movie and more. This is, of course, my favorite Marvel movie so fucking far, okay? The ending fight between Tony Stark and Captain America and Winter Soldier, the way that they set up that fight, they meet, they're still friends, they talk it over, they hash it out, there's a truce, Tony starts to believe Steve and what he's doing for Bucky, and the way that Zemo turns that around and makes Tony fight them, and the reasoning, I mean, I knew it, but a lot of people didn't, even if you know it, the way that it's executed is brilliant. It is so good. Oh my god. Oh my god. Holy shit. I have to see this movie again. I'm seeing this movie again. I don't know when, but within the next 72 hours, I'm seeing this movie again. It is so. I can't. I can't even. That's gonna end my review right now. I don't want to talk about anything more because I don't know what to talk about. There's just so much to talk about, and I want to talk about my spoiler review, which I'll do probably later on today or tomorrow, because I need a few more hours to sink this in. So if you enjoy my review, please comment in the comment section below. Let your boy know. Let's have a conversation about it. If you saw the movie, please do comment in the comment section below. Let's have a conversation about that as well, but without any spoilers, because I want to keep this spoiler free in the comment section as well. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, and peace out, guys.